Dune, yes. So this movie is easily working its way up into my top movies of all time. Not only did I enjoy watching this movie and being poked and prodded to watch and enjoy it, um, it stuck with me. And thanks to HBO Max, I get to go back and pick apart the little details and parts that I like that, make it memorable, just like, the Wizard of Oz. And I don't have with me today Mr. Ridiculous, Mr. Spice Lord, Mr. Heavy Crown. Steve, I don't have him with me today, but we will body slam this thing and double team it soon. That is a guarantee. Um, so, what I want to talk about very surface level with this movie is three things, really. I want to talk about my podium performances, my bronze, silver, and gold. I want to talk about the adaptations, what stuck out to me, what I really liked, and then I want to talk about the lack of love because you have all of these '80s movies, and as far as like Comic Cons and Trekkies and Star Trek and Flash Gordon and Transformers and GI Joe and A Team, Rocky Balboa. There's all these '80s um, um, characters and mascots, and no Dune, like no Dune. So why? But not now. That's gonna change. People that have been roasting Marvel movies and calling me roasting Marvel movies are now asking me, "Hey, is there another Dune?" That's powerful to me. That's powerful, and that kind of goes back to a conversation that Steve and I were actually having, where I was actually upset that Denis Villeneuve was saying that Marvel was a cookie cutter. It's just a carnival ride. But when you make films like this, using Thanos, using Apocalypse, using Aquaman, and then using Peter Parker's love interest from Spider-Man Far From Home, he used Marvel and DC's characters to tell, in my opinion, a superior story. And it wasn't that we didn't have any notes, anything. This book was written by Frank Herbert and produced in 1965. It's a book from 1965. So, wow. Just wow. But let's get back to it, right? Um, my bronze medal performance, I'm going to go back up, was Javier Bardem, Stigler. I love the way he gave this performance. Uh, he held back nothing. He commands the whole room when he walks in. Like No Country for Old Men, he did it. Here he did it. He commands the room every time he walks in the room. I absolutely love it. Like, love it. So he is the desert people. He is their leader. And they even keep it to where Jessica and their fight, their battle, is word for word, line for line, where he's got the knife up to her throat. I didn't know you knew the weirding way. You could best even the best of us. So I'm like, oh wow, that was pretty dope. Which, I don't know, in the original, it's a little bit different because in this version, Paul pulls out a gun. In the old version, it doesn't look like that. So I really loved his character. I love how he brought it to life. I love the costumes. The costumes were even better than the first movie, which is impossible because those were like years ahead of anything I had seen in film or in movies. Like they almost all look like Snake Eyes in the 1984 film. They almost all look like Mortal Kombat characters, and it was just dope, right? Which I'm guessing they were probably like scuba diving suits of some kind. But I bought it. I loved it, and it was hype. It was dope. My silver medal performance goes to Oscar Isaacs and Josh Brolin. To me, it's a tie. Um, Duke Leto Atreides really embodied the responsibility of the House of Atreides while also giving his son a chance to be what he will be for the House of Atreides one day. Now, he had no idea that he was getting set up to the point that he was being set up. He just knew something's fishy, something don't look right. But seeing him embody this role and do such a great job of it, same thing as Gurney Halleck with Josh Brolin. He put some stank on the role. They're very different characters, whereas Leto Atreides is this loving father that must lead and must teach you how to mature as a king. Gurney Halleck doesn't teach you how to not get your, tail whooped. I'll say that for the kids that might watch this video. He's teaching you how to not get dusted and rolled up in that corner, Muay Thai style. So those are my silver medal performances. I absolutely loved what they did with their roles. They owned it and embodied it in a way where it was like Hamlet, right? It was like Macbeth, where they put it on and fully wore it as if they're the only Leto Atreides. They're the only Gurney Halleck. Same thing with Mr. Duncan Idaho, right? They've been making fun of his name, and why not Peter Nebraska, right? They've been making fun of his name in all these reviews, which is like a funny thing to make fun of Jason Momoa, him being too plain, right? So I really love what they did with their characters. I really love how they brought them, to life. But I actually think they're interchangeable. Like if all of them had the same length beard and the same haircut, I feel like you could revolve them around and boom, stick them in. But thank God they didn't do that. The cast chose perfectly. They chose great to have everyone where they had them. They fit. They did an awesome job. They had Thanos, Cable, Aquaman, who is it? Thanos, Cable, Aquaman, Zendaya. She isn't a hero, but she's in Spider-Man. They literally had the whole world together here of popular Marvel and DC comics, and Denis VillaNueve, he just hit it out the park, right? Now, as far as my favorite modification, what I really loved about this movie so much was how the inner monologue that was so normal in the 1984 movie, they took that energy and put it into Paul's dreams. Like, I loved that so much. The fantasy, premonition, spice world. I know I'm not Spice Girls, the Spice World. Wink, wink. I love that shimmering fantasy, loving, almost rose-colored glasses view that Paul had. It was dope. Like, I really loved that. And one of the stars of the show, which I hope she gets, more love and appreciation, is Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica Atreides. I absolutely loved that she was more conflicted in this role, but also seemed a little bit more powerful in this role. Like, they let her play the both ends of her spectrum even more. Like, they let her tip them even more, where she was more of a mother, more scared, more happy, or more of this and that as far as a fighter, as a leader. I dug it. They just poured more salt, more pepper into her role, and it worked, and she hit it out the park, especially for all of her films and movies she's done. Like, she was terrifying in Doctor Sleep, the sequel to The Shining, and she brought that same energy here, and it was crazy to see her, afraid of the Queen Mother, Reverend Mother Moylan. So, I loved, that multiverse mind that Paul had. I loved his dreams, that they poured all the fantasy and love and mysticism into that, because what we're going to see in the second movie compared to the second half of what we see in the second part of Dune in 2022, possibly, based on what I saw in the 1984 version, it's going to knock everybody off their... There's no way to easily tell it. But last but not least, These books were written and came out in 1965, before the 1977 Star Wars, before The Empire Strikes Back, and before Return of the Jedi. These books were out. And, my friend, Mr. Ridiculous, Mr. Spice Lord, pointed out that many people have speculated that some of this material was stolen and shared in a certain fantasy film that involves wars and superpowers that I have been in love with ever since I was a child. So I won't go too deep into that. I will say that this movie deserves so much more hype. This movie deserves so much more love. And it's now what they're going to get it, because you have this all-star cast. I'm sorry, Dave Bautista. Guardians of the Galaxy, Drax, the Harkonnens, So this movie, I feel like, will finally get the love and appreciation it deserves. It was all of it. It was Marvel, it was DC, it was sci-fi, it was Fifth Element, it's the Dark Phoenix, it's all of it. And the way he shot this film, the darkness, the light, the desert, the water, the Harkonnens, I can't remember the worm's name, but give me a break. Let me learn. I'll learn. This was just such a fantabulous movie. Just so amazing, so awesome. I dug it. I dig it. I still do. And we'll dig into this more in a further review.